We get so much of our lumber, our 2x4s, from Canada. That's where we get it from. Canada. We get our newsprint from up there for newspapers. The fact is we get it. What are we going to do? Have more lumber made in the United States now? What is our plan now? Oh, we're not going to import wood, so we're going to make more wood? We're going to create more wood? Is that it?
Yes, the always reliable Chris Matthews. Severe mental case that he is. On DNC TV this morning, of course, Morning Joke. Speaking of Circle Fest in a hot tub. Well, I don't know if Chris Matthews is familiar with where wood comes from. I also saw an angry Democrat, fake journalist yesterday pounding the table, saying that we get most of the wood that we use to make toilet paper from Canada because Democrats usually just burn trees. They don't want to cut them down. They set them on fire and burn them by the tens of thousands of acres like in Los Angeles and Malibu and beyond because they may groom the children, but they don't groom the forests. Little cat scratch fever. And amazing. Chris Matthews. Well, yeah, actually, it's a renewable resource. They love to talk about renewables. They just don't know what the word means. Not a bright bunch. Not a bright bunch. And he had to be caught up in the Pound Me Too scandal, didn't he? I mean, he was a groper and a Googler from way back. But that's MSDNC. Yeah, where do you think wood comes from? Yeah, Canada is one big forest. Nobody lives there. It's the second largest country on the planet Earth. And they have, I think, a population smaller than the state of California. To say that they're larger would be understatement. Amazing stuff. But there's Chris Matthews. Yeah, what are we going to do? Just make new trees? Well, that's how trees work. Yeah. And we grow them for the purpose of harvesting lumber. And in a great many cases, we buy this very soft wood because we're America out of Canada to make toilet paper. I heard liberals whining about this yesterday. Oh, no, what are we going to do? We're going to become like Venezuela. Remember when Venezuela, the whole country, ran out of toilet paper? They had to go knock on Colombia's door. Hey, do me a favor. Pass me a roll. The whole country's out of toilet paper because this is what Democrats being completely in charge here would lead to also. These people, Chris Matthews, complete mental case. What are we going to do? Grow more trees? Yes. Any questions? They have very, very small brains. They don't understand much about the world around them, the world that they live in. I'm telling you, today is Mailbag Day, too. I'd mentioned that today is Mailbag Day because it's Wednesday. It's Hump Day in the Clinton household, and here on the Chris Plant Show, it's Mailbag Day. Now, the economy and tariffs, all very important. And the Democrats are pushing for and hoping for and doing everything they can to facilitate economic catastrophe for the United States because they don't care if it's bad for the United States and 330 million of us that live here. They just want it to be bad for Donald Trump because that's who they are. They're in bed with communist China. And, they loved Hugo Chavez when he was in charge of Venezuela. Now they love Nicolas Maduro now that he's in charge of Venezuela. Remember Barack Obama going down to Cuba and sucking up to the Castros and the communists there, posing for pictures with murals of Che Guevara. Barack Obama was mentored by a Communist Party member when he was growing up named Frank Marshall Davis. Barack Obama chose a Communist Party voter, John Brennan, known as Penitentiary Face Brennan, to be CIA director. And Barack Obama's communist voting, he voted for Gus Hall, the Communist Party candidate for President of the United States. And then Barack Obama made him CIA director. And then Penitentiary Face undermined with 50 other communists, Democrats, undermined our 2020 presidential election with their fake letter about the reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop having all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. No, it didn't. You guys are Russian disinformation. There are commies everywhere in the Democrat Party. And that's, I just cited a few specific facts that are not in dispute. But never mind that. Now let us get to the mailbag, because it's Wednesday. It's Mailbag Day. And we have Michael give me the mailbag queries. That's like questions, but with a funnier word. And give me only 3 today. Only 3 mailbag questions today. Never mind. Darius asks, Amy Coney Barrett continually votes with the left. Is there any hope of her coming around? Nice Notre Dame law school girl, and the media very riled up about this, and there's reason for concern. There is. Amy Coney Barrett continually votes with the left. Is there any hope for her coming around? The left-wing media. Amy Coney Barrett joins liberals to defy Trump again. The left-wingers at the Daily Beast have the headline, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett has broken with her fellow conservatives on another high-profile challenge to the Trump administration. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 on Monday that President Donald Trump could resume deportations of Venezuelans accused of being members of the Trinidad gang, but with an important caveat. The alleged gang members must be given a chance to see judicial review before they are deported. This is what the Democrats want, because there are millions and millions of illegal aliens that they waved into the country. They want to tie it all up in the courts for decades to come, because there are 10 million, 12 million, 15 million, whatever the number may be. And the Democrats want to tie it up because they love lawfare, and everybody's a lawyer on the left, so they want to line their pockets while destroying the country. It's a win-win for the Democrat Party. Coney Barrett sided with the court's 3 liberal justices to co-sign key parts of Justice Sonia Sotomayor's blistering dissent. She looks like she's got blisters, doesn't she? I think she's got a lot of blisters. The 4 female justices argued that continuing the deportations while courts weigh in on the relevant legal questions could have life or death consequences for the detainees sent to El Salvador's notorious Sicat mega prison. Now, without getting all into that, and it's true, she has sided with the liberal, left-wing, radical, anti-American, communist, socialist, baby-killing wing of the Democrat Party again and again. And I honestly, Darius, is there hope for her coming around? I would say that yes, but. And there is a pattern here from Amy Coney Barrett, and it's discouraging, to be sure. I would say that that because of the pattern, that I'll be keeping an eye on her behavior and her the way that she votes on the Supreme Court, who she sides with, and you get the 4 females, right, and 5 men. Of course, one of the females doesn't know what a woman is. Joe Biden's pick for the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. What's a woman? What am I, some kind of a biologist or something? Well, you are a woman, I can tell from here. This came up at the White House briefing yesterday, Amy Coney Barrett, and the media is attacking Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, for giving this answer, and it's the attacks are a lot of bourgeois.
We believe this was a massive victory. Certainly, we wish this was a 9-0 decision, because we firmly believe that the president was well within his constitutional authority, and the Supreme Court made that very clear last night, and they put Judge Boasberg in his place. We called on the Supreme Court to rein in these judges who are acting as judicial activists, not real arbiters of the truth and the law, and that's exactly what we saw the Supreme Court do yesterday. Another
left-wing headline, Caroline Leavitt takes swipe at Amy Coney Barrett betrayal. Well, that's the question and the answer that from Caroline Levitt that earned this fake headline from the fake media, which is a third world media, and they're a danger to Western civilization. The Guardian out of the United Kingdom, far right condemns Amy Coney Barrett for ruling against Trump administration. Or the far right condemns Amy Coney Barrett. I think you can raise legitimate questions about the ruling and her decision to side with the lefties. But I've got to say, and there is something of a pattern here with Amy Coney Barrett. And here's the thing: I expect Supreme Court justices to provide legal expertise, to side with the Constitution and with the law of the land and with stare decisis, with precedent. And that's what I expect from them. I don't expect the Republican nominees to the court to side with the Republican Party every time, and they don't. I would like to think that the Democrat nominees would not side with the Democrat Party every time, but they seem to side with the Democrat Party every time it becomes an issue. And that is the stuff of the third world and the Democrat Party, because they're leftists. They're not even liberals. They're leftists, and that is problematic. And Darius, I am hopeful that Amy Coney Barrett will have an admirable and illustrious career as a Supreme Court justice, and that she will always support the Constitution, the law, precedent, and the United States of America. But I don't expect her to give political decisions. I don't expect her decisions to be political. But I am a little befuddled by all of this, Darius, and I'm hoping for better going forward. Question number 1 in the mailbag. Question number 2 from Blake 33. Who should be the featured entertainer at the White House Correspondents Association annual dinner on April 26th? I haven't been invited to the dinner this year. How about Volodymyr Zelensky? You know, he was a comedian. He was a stand-up comedian. And now it's pretty funny what's happened to all the money that we've sent, like $180 billion to Ukraine and all the weapons. And apparently the would-be Trump assassin in Florida was in regular touch with a Ukrainian about getting a rocket-propelled grenade to murder President Trump with, or a Stinger surface-to-air shoulder-launched missile, a man-pad to shoot down President Trump's private 757, Boeing 757. But Volodymyr Zelensky, it'd be funny to give him a chance to be a comedian in the middle of the war and everything. He might not. And I've got to say, Blake 33, Michael Piercy and I were talking about it. I like Dave Chappelle. There's Bill Burr, but he's blown himself up lately with all kinds of wacky political stuff. Bill Burr, and he's been a funny guy historically. I actually had a chance when I was in my 20s to pick the White House Correspondents Association comedian, and we picked David Letterman at the time. It was a long time ago. And he declined. So we picked Jay Leno, and Jay Leno came in, and Jay Leno was. But, the problem is, Blake 33, the Democrats have murdered comedy. They've murdered comedy. And so it's harder and harder. Dave Chappelle still does comedy, and he's from D.C., and I like Dave Chappelle. So that might be a good pick But I got to say, the pickings are slim when it comes to comedians. That's for sure. It's a tough one. So Zelensky might be a funny one for the White House to announce. We've invited Vladimir Zelensky because they had this radical leftist woman, racist Trump hater that the White House Correspondents Association picked. The president of the association is a gay black man. He picked a gay black woman who's a Trump-hating leftist to be the comedian because he figured correctly that most of the audience would be right in the thick of it with her. I have one more mailbag question coming up. And I will share that with you. Always tough questions from our great listeners. Not really. Everything's fine. But it's good, yeah. So who do you pick? The pickings are slim when it comes to comedy in America because the Democrat Party, the left, has murdered comedy. They don't think anything's funny anymore. accept murder and assassination and firebombing because they're not liberals, they're the left.
Hey, take it easy. That stuff doesn't grow in trees, you know.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Out in our third and final mailbag question of the day from DWB. That's B-E-E, like a bumblebee. Hey, Chris. Crazy is in overdrive with these unhinged TDS folk. You know, your Trump derangement syndrome. How long do you predict it will be before these criminal leftist elites and their dumbed-down terrorist youth corps will be in Leavenworth? Seditious treason, sociopaths go to Supermax 6. It goes underground 6 tiers. Talking about Supermax goes underground, Supermax 6. I like your optimism, DWB. I really do. I've got to say, we're in for a generational struggle here because at least one generation, a couple of generations, have been raised to be crazy, violence-loving leftists. Again, the study that I shared yesterday, 55% of Democrats would approve of President Trump being assassinated, and he's only been shot once so far. Another Democrat trying to cut a deal with the Ukrainian to get a rocket-propelled grenade or a Stinger missile to assassinate him. The Democrats love Luigi Mangione, who assassinated, murdered a CEO in New York City. The Democrat Party is a violent party, I think it would be generous to say. Now, DWB, as to how long will it go? You know, there's news out today about how Republicans, Gen Z Republicans going to college, are feeling more and more comfortable on college campuses, and that the stigma of being conservative, being a Republican voter, being a Trump supporter on college campuses, melting away because young people are naturally more thoughtful and intelligent than the left would have you believe, even though they're in the brainwashing and indoctrination business when it comes to certainly college campuses, and they've taken over high school and even grammar school curricula across the country, hence gender queer books on every nursery school shelf and all that. But I'd like to think that they have overplayed their hand to the point that young people are Look, I mean, I was raised in a very liberal country, and then Ronald Reagan came along. And Ronald Reagan opened my eyes and opened the eyes of millions and millions of young Americans, and it changed the world, quite literally. Now, can President Trump survive and change the world the way that Ronald Reagan did? I think he can, but it's a fight. There's no doubt about that. It is a fight. And it's a fight for civilization, for Western civilization, for humanity. It has been engaged. All right, we should go back to the telephones, and then I've got a terrible, awful Jimmy Fallon joke, but I'd like your opinion on this because it's not clear, it's not entirely clear whether he's calling for people to murder their own families or, they find their attempts at humor in the strangest places. But right now, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Donna, calling from Frederick, Maryland. Oh, Donna, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Well, hello, Chris. I was going to say to you, I truly believe that Democrats are going to be known for, in the annals of history, as the party of violence. And they've got a long history of it. And it's of no surprise to me that they would go after Dan Bongino just like they did General Flynn, because Dan is a smart individual. He's had his hand on the pulse for a long time. He knows where the bodies are likely buried. And criminals will protect criminals, albeit whatever party. They're going to do it. You know, we've got insider trading happening. They don't want the information coming back at us about how the NGOs are funneling it back to their favorite politicians. Most of the American public is aware of this already, and the harder the left works at covering up, the worse it gets for them.
Well, yeah, I've got to say, on the Dan Bongino thing, it is, and on the bigger picture that you brought into it, Donna, correctly, that historically, the Democratic Party is the party of violence. They are a violent party. The Republican Party does not have a violent history, and the Democrat Party, from Jefferson Davis and their slavery and the KKK and Jim Crow and the riots of the 1960s and the assassinations of, again, 3 American presidents that were assassinated were Republicans, starting with the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, because they really wanted to keep their slaves, the Democrats. And the only Democrat president assassinated was John F. Kennedy, and he was killed by a communist, or by the CIA if you prefer. And honestly, the riots... how many? Ronald Reagan was shot. They shot at Gerald Ford twice. 2 women. One of them was a member of the Manson gang, the Manson family. Just amazing. And Squeaky Fromm. And they had Sarah Jane Moore, a housewife, tried to kill Gerald Ford, who was not really a killable guy. He was a perfectly nice guy and all that. Donald Trump has been shot. Ronald Reagan was shot. Let's start ticking off the Democrats that have been shot, because John F. Kennedy, I think, is the beginning and the end. And you had, what's his name, who was shot in George Wallace, who was shot, and he was shot by a guy who really wanted to assassinate Richard Nixon. Just amazing stuff. The Democrat Party, the violence, the riots, and they bring it back every now and then on a large scale violence across the country that the Democrats are so known for. And you're absolutely right, Donna. They should be known as the party of violence, because they are the party of violence. That's how you get a reputation, and the Democrat Party certainly has earned the reputation. And Dan Bongino is today's story. Also, we've got a story. Look, the trial is going on in New York for Luigi Mangione, who they've made into a hero. They turned Joker Zarnaev of the Boston Marathon bombing into a hero on the cover of the Rolling Stone. They lionize the bad guys. They turn the bad guys into heroes, and they turn the good guys into villains. That's the Democrat Party. They're on the side of the Viet Cong during the war against the communists in the mid 20th century. They're on the side of undermining the United States, the last best hope for mankind. Even today, they're just not on the side of civilization. They do deserve. They've earned, certainly, Donna, a reputation. But because they have secured information dominance in the media and academia, and even in publishing, they clean the slate of their own deeds at every turn. Every day they wake up, and they seem to have ineffective memories as well. They're not good at remembering anything in particular when it comes to certainly their own history. And again, I've pointed it out before, Donna, but the Nancy Pelosi push to remove all of the racists' statues and paintings, portraits from Capitol Hill, and every single statue, bust, carving, sculpture, and painting on Capitol Hill that was removed for being racist, every single one of them was a Democrat, and virtually no news media made note of that. Pretty amazing stuff.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and Chris, you know what? One of my favorite expressions you say is, every day is an IQ test, and it doesn't take a genius to tie all these terrorist groups together. Their long-term game is they would love to have Sharia law in our country. They'd love to get rid of the Constitution. And I just want to say to Democrats that are hearing this for the first time, be glad to hear it because it makes all the difference. And we welcome people that have differing opinions, but not to the extent that you have to be violent and you have to set people's cars on fire, many of whom are Democrats. Sadly, I feel very bad for those people. I don't care if they have different political view than me, but the violence, that's way off in left field, and it'll be so nice when all this is righted, all these wrongs are over, and we can honestly have perhaps a more peaceful world.
Perhaps. And that is the goal. And it is a constant struggle and has been throughout all of human history, Donna. And I know you appreciate that, but it's good against evil. And that has been the story since biblical times and before. And the battle between good and evil continues. The Democrat Party representing evil in this particular instance, as I think is plain for every school child to see.
Absolutely. And you're so good at going through history and reminding us of these things. It's important for people to know, especially our new listeners that are just now catching on, sadly, to what's been going on underneath our noses for, gosh, Chris, as long as you and I could probably remember.
Yeah, I think that's right. Donna, thank you. Thank you very much. Very nice conversation. And the truth counts. And again, I'm going to remind, since this is the topic, then we'll get to this Jimmy Fallon thing. But thanks, Donna. Yesterday, I shared with you this new bombshell study reveals assassination culture, right? President Trump was shot. Congressman Steve Scalise was shot. Those are both suicide attacks by the Democrat Party, members of the Democrat Party. And this new study that comes from the Network Contagion Research Institute, NCRI, which is affiliated with the Rutgers University in New Jersey. An NCRI study took a survey, a poll, and what they discovered is that people that identify as being left of center, Democrats, 55.2% of these people said that it's justified to kill Donald Trump. 55.2%. That's just say, well, I'm left of center. So that's every criminal Democrat. And only 48.6% of them said it would be justified to assassinate Elon Musk. But 55.2% say it's justified to assassinate Donald Trump. That's the Democrat Party today. It really is. And as they asked, is it okay to destroy Tesla dealerships? Is that partially acceptable, at least partially acceptable? And 57.6% of left-of-center people, Democrats, 57%, yeah, it's at least partially acceptable to destroy Tesla dealerships. 55.2%, it's okay to kill, to murder, that was the word they used, murder Donald Trump. And nearly as many, 48.6%, it's okay to murder Elon Musk. Isn't that amazing? The Democrat Party is not really a civilized political party at this point. It's extraordinary. And they make it entertainment as well. Now, last night, Jimmy Fallon has a TV show. He's a lefty. They pay him millions and millions of dollars to host a television show. Very few conservatives and no conservatives on ABC, NBC, CBS, late night TV. None. Zero. Have there ever been? There haven't. No, there haven't. But last night they did a little joke. And they're saying, oh, Donald Trump, we're going to have a recession. The economy is going terrible, and it's going to be really bad for everyone. And they did a little joke, and they had a graphic up on the screen and stuff for Jimmy Fallon's TV show. It's The Tonight Show. Used to be Johnny Carson and all that stuff. And they give him the big NBC job and millions of dollars to do the Democrat Party's vicious bidding, where they laugh and clap about a CEO being assassinated by their hero, Luigi Mangione. They love assassins and murderers, and the assassination culture from this organization affiliated with Rutgers University on killing Donald Trump, killing Elon Musk, burning and attacking. I mean, at what point do you say this is a terrorist organization? And that's not a mock question. That is a legitimate question. But here they are last night on The Tonight Show. And you got to listen carefully, and the crowd responding. And when Jimmy Fallon does the joke, delivers the punchline, he drags his extended index finger across his throat and, sticks his tongue out oh, death to them, kill them all. And the joke is, if there is a recession, will you just stay calm and live with it? Or are you going to poison your entire family like it's Jonestown?
When asked what will you do if there's a recession, 50% said stay calm and be frugal. 50% said make my entire family special pina coladas.
Whoa! And the audience sees him dragging his finger across his throat like kill them all with Jonestown, mass suicide. That was racist. And it was socialist. That was a socialist utopia where they had more than 900 African Americans from the Bay Area commit suicide by drinking poison Kool-Aid. And this was a poison Kool-Aid joke. Make my entire family special pina coladas, and while you drag your extended fingertip across your throat to indicate they're all dead, and the crowd, kill the whole family if there is a recession. You people are really demented, mental, violent, murderous, bloodthirsty ghouls and jackals, Democrats. And really, they're leftists. They're not liberals. They're the left. Man, this is pretty wackadoodle stuff.
In an effort to shore up support among his followers, Jones vilifies the outside world.
Jones had said that a fascist government was going to take over and was going to throw African Americans in prison camps, much like Nazis had done to Jews in the Holocaust.
Now, that is a documentary on the Jonestown Massacre, the mass suicide in Guyana and South America. They came out of Oakland and San Francisco and the Bay Area in California. More than 900 died by poisoning. And what was his rhetoric? It's the exact same rhetoric you get from the Democrat Party today. And they're murderous, and they praise the assassin of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. They love Luigi Mangione. They've raised many hundreds of thousands of dollars for Luigi Mangione. They're sending him their underwear, the men and the women in the Democrat Party, while he's in prison. And honestly, that is a very revealing soundbite from that documentary on Jonestown and Jim Jones using an eerily similar, in fact, identical rhetoric to what the Democrat Party is using today. Hitler, Nazis, racism, the racial division, those terrible, terrible Republicans, and he was good. He was indicting the entire United States of America, and the black people and all the people that he fed the poison to were black, virtually all of them at Jonestown. And I got to tell you, the rhetoric of the Democrat Party is more like Jim Jones, and everybody's Nazis, and then they're the ones that kill everybody, of course. No sense of irony. These people. Yes, sir. I'm telling you. Who's the Jim Jones of today's Democrat Party? They all are. They are crazy Maryland congressman, the lost Marx brother. He was out there at it again yesterday. And the rhetoric sounds more and more like Jonestown. And they have suicide attackers all over the place. Baton Rouge, Dallas, Alexandria, Virginia, Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., New York City, Butler, Pennsylvania. Just to name a few of the Democrat Party's suicide attackers of late. And they're murderous, of course. They don't just want to end their own lives. They want to kill other people in the process. And everybody's a Nazi. Everybody's Hitler. And there's the racial strife. They're all Jim Jones now. CNN has their polling guy. His name is not a good name. It's Harry Enton. Harry Enton. Sounds like, I don't know, breakfast Danish gone bad or something like that, Don't want that. But he was on CNN yesterday and looking at the poll numbers, And they really want all the numbers to be bad news for President Trump. But Harry Enton crunched the numbers, looked at them, and he takes this seriously. Harry Enton.
I think there was this concern among some folks that Donald Trump would come in for a second term and kind of be a lame duck. He ain't no lame duck. If anything, he's a soaring eagle. Do you think that he has a little too much power or not? And this is interesting. So Trump's presidential power is too much, the right amount, too little. Well, 47% say too much, but then you get 36% who say the right amount. Then you get 17% who say too little. So you're essentially dealing with a majority of the American public, 53%, who do not say that Trump has too much power. They either says he has too little power or the right amount of power. So the idea, that argument that Donald Trump is, quote unquote, a king, that I don't think holds with the American people.
Uh-huh. Well, how about that? Well, a soaring eagle. The Democrats, and that means the people at CNN, want him to be flailing and failing, and they're going to do everything they can to help bring that about. But Harry Enton is looking at the numbers, and also stories today on how it's becoming more fashionable on college campuses to call yourself a conservative and a Trump supporter, and that's a good thing. And I got to tell you, Michael, I know that soundbite that we played a few minutes ago from the documented television documentary on Jonestown, the Jonestown massacre in Guyana, where the Reverend Jim Jones, a total fraud and charlatan, a socialist, a communist, who is going to bring about a socialist utopia in San Francisco and the Bay Area. And then he decided, oh, no, they're persecuting us because we're all black. He wasn't black, but most of his followers were. We're going to have to go to South America, to Guyana, where he eventually fed them all poison Kool-Aid. It was not even Kool-Aid brand Kool-Aid. It was store brand Kool-Aid. I always like to support the Kool-Aid Corporation. But this sounds like the Democrats today.
In an effort to shore up support among his followers, Jones vilifies the outside world.
Jones had said that a fascist government was going to take over and was going to throw African Americans in prison camps, much like Nazis had done to Jews in the Holocaust.
Yes, the prison camps. That reminds me of the Democrat, Michael Beschloss, presidential historian, who famously said, coming up in the midterm elections in President Trump's first go-round as president of the United States, that if the Republicans won the midterm elections, they were going to arrest and kill all your children.
What was at stake tonight and this week was the fact whether we will be a democracy in the future, whether our children will be arrested and conceivably killed.
Yes, sure. That was what was at stake. This is Jonestown death cult rhetoric. And I didn't even mention all the self-immolators, too, because we have had at least 7 Democrats self-immolate in the last couple of years, too. There's something wrong with these people, isn't there?